Hey guys, welcome back to a page in the chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige. I like to read a lot of books and then talk about them here on this channel with you guys for you to hopefully enjoy and gain something from my thoughts on books. Today we're going to be doing the spoiler tag. So this is a tag created by Gunpowder Plot and Fiction. The channel will be linked down below for you guys. And it's just a tag all about spoilers, and I thought it was really fun. So let's do a tag. We haven't done a tag in ages. It's been mostly reading recommendations lately, which I love to do and is kind of the purpose of a booktube channel, is so you can find books. But let's do a tag today. Why not? If you guys do this tag or are interested in this tag, then let me know it down in the comments and link me over to your videos, because I'm always looking for new channels to watch and I really enjoy this tag and would be really interested to see what you guys think of spoilers. So do let me know down below. If you guys like what you have seen so far, why not hit that big red subscribe button down below and stick around. Maybe check out some other videos. I like to think that I'm a nice person and I'm creating a nice vibe here, so feel free to join it. My biggest goal on booktube is to just have a community of people who want to fangirl about YA and book characters with me, so if that seems like your vibe, why not stick around? So I don't want to ramble too long, let's go talk about some spoilers. So the first question on this tag is, what do you consider to be a spoiler? Now this does kind of depend on genre for me a little bit, but what I consider to be a spoiler is kind of anything that's not on the blurb or any of the covers of the book and isn't part of the main plotline. I feel like anyone who reads a book has an innate understanding about what would be a spoiler for that book, because it very much depends on the plot. But if you are revealing something that you think is like a bit of a twist or isn't information that you know going into this book, and it's like in the second half of the book usually, it's probably a spoiler, you know? Like, I feel like this is very just an innate feeling as to what is a spoiler and what isn't, but usually it's anything that's not on any of the covers and is in the second half of the book. Does the genre you're reading affect what you consider to be a spoiler? Kind of yes and no. Like I said for the last question, it does kind of depend on the genre, and when I say that, I'm really only referring to classics. Just because most classics are already kind of spoiled for everyone. Everyone kind of understands what happens in a classic because they're classics. They've been around for so long. Even within England, every student studies different books during school, so even when you add in other countries and other people in the book community, we've all read such different classics in our time, and so we all kind of know the gist of every single classic that's going on. So in relation to classics, yes, I think the spoilers are a little bit different. There's not as much mystery surrounding classics as other books. However, every other book except classics, my spoiler rules remain the same. If it's not on the blurb or pertinent to the central basic plot of the story, then I don't want to hear it. Keep it to yourself. I don't want to know. The next question is, do you research books prior to reading them? As a booktube content creator, yes, I kind of have to. Like when I'm putting together reading recommendations for you guys, I'm not just researching for books for you, I'm researching for books for me, especially if they're a very specific reading recommendation. So if I'm just recommending you books that I've already read, then obviously that doesn't matter at all because I've read it. Or if I read a lot of books within a certain theme, then I'll just say, oh, I can put together an archaeology and anthropology reading recommendations video because I've already read these books. But sometimes when I have a themed recommendation video, I won't have enough to really pad it out, so I'll do some research for you guys, and in that process I kind of have to research the book quite extensively because I'm not going to recommend you a bad book. So I'm reading through Goodreads or the Goodreads reviews, loads of different reviews on different sites, loads of different synopsises on different sites, so sometimes I have very extensively researched a book before I buy it. The most recent book that I can think of that I did that with was Cinderella is Dead, which was a standalone recommendation that I gave you guys in that video. I researched it extensively and then added it to my own wish list because I wanted to read it so badly after that video, and I stand by putting it in that recommendations video. It was a great book. However, I personally like to go into books not really knowing anything about them, and so I will try to do that wherever possible. So if I see a book being hyped up on Twitter or on the booktube community, I will usually just buy it without really reading the blurb or anything into it. Usually I can decide whether I want to read a hyped booktube book just based on tropes I hear are in it, or just very basic descriptions of the book that I might see in a recommendations video on someone else's channel. So where it's possible, I won't research my books. That is the best way for me to go into a book, but because I make these videos and research these videos so I can put them together for you guys, I end up having to research a lot of the books. Has an introduction or translator's notes ever spoiled a book for me? The only time I will really read an introduction or translator's notes is with a classic. So no, because as I've said, I will probably already know what's going to happen in that book before I read it. I also I've never read one that contains a spoiler. I don't know that they tend to spoil things. So what I tend to read introductions for is to help me understand the context of the book that I'm about to read, especially if it's written in a way that I am not 100% familiar with looking at every day. So like Chaucer, that's written in Middle English. I've studied Chaucer before, so it's in my brain somewhere, but when I first pick up the book, it's gonna take me a little while to get back into reading that. So the translators and introduction are very helpful for me to, you know, kind of understand what's going on when I can't understand what's going on. I wouldn't be too cautious of reading introductions. I've never had them spoil anything for me, but then I only read them for classics when I already know the premise of a book, so it wouldn't be a huge spoiler. Or what I would recommend is maybe read the book and then read the meaty bit at the beginning after you've read the book, so you get all of that context and information still, because honestly it's so interesting. For some books, like with Mr. Twelfth Night over here, I just read the introduction to this book. I didn't even bother reading the play. I just wanted to read the introduction and know all the backstory and the social history, because that was always my favourite part of studying English literature. I just wanted to know the social history. Name a time that somebody spoiled a novel for me. This takes me back. So, Tumblr actually spoiled the ending of Allegiant by Veronica Roth for me, and I was only about 150 pages from the end, and I saw this spoiler and I just immediately put the book down and put it away and never looked at it again. And it was more that I was just so angry at the way Veronica Roth decided to end that book, more so than I was annoyed that it was spoiled for me. Like, don't get me wrong, I was very upset that it was spoiled for me, because I wasn't even on a hashtag or anything, and I wasn't too far behind on the Divergent series, to be honest. I was reading it like at a time when YA dystopian was really taking off, so I wasn't like massively behind the times reading it. It was, people should have been careful with their spoilers, is basically what I'm saying. It wasn't like ridiculously long after the book had come out that you can just assume everyone's read it. The ending of that book just makes me so aggressively angry, and I could rant about it for days because it just shouldn't have ended that way. So yeah, I've never picked that book up again. I never plan to. Even when I watch the movies, I just watch movie number 1 and movie number 2. Be careful of Tumblr, kids. And following in line with that last question is, have I ever spoiled a book for someone else? I don't think I have, actually, not in that sense. I'll spoil books for my boyfriend all the time because he's not a reader at all, and we both know that he's never gonna read them. So I'll just say, hey, can I rant to you about this? Or I'll be like giggling and squealing and freaking out over a book in the corner, and he's just like, what's going on? He gets spoiled all the time, but only because I know he'll never ever read it. But other than that, I'm very, very careful with spoilers, especially being on BookTube. I have gotten so much more eloquent with the way I talk about books, and I've gotten so much better at being able to strip back a book and dissect it to just give a baseline plotline and description of a book without spoiling it. So BookTube has actually been really, really great for helping me learn how to do that. Are there some books, authors or genres that I can't reread due to spoilers? And I mean, as I've kind of said, Allegiant is kind of that for me. I don't see myself ever really rereading the Divergent series as a whole, but just because I think that it's had its time now, and if I reread it I would probably really not enjoy it. Like, let's just leave it as a good memory rather than going back to it. In terms of just completely swearing off books or entire genres because of spoilers, no. I still read classics. I'm very, very proud of my Penguin Classic collection. I own more than I think I could ever possibly read, but I'm hoping to become very well versed in classics. So even though I know what's going to happen, no, it doesn't bother me or kind of tempt me away from reading them. And even with just other genres like YA contemporaries, I love YA contemporaries and I love romance books. And the plot lines are always very predictable. You kind of know exactly what's going to happen as you go into them. They all follow the same kind of structure. And there are plenty of books that I will reread even though I know what's going to happen. I reread Morgan Matson's books every single summer. I reread Fangirl all the time. I know what's going to happen, but it doesn't make it any less enjoyable or any less comforting. And I think that's kind of what rereading is for me. I think I go back to find comfort in those books again, and the fact that I know what happens makes them comforting. So the purpose of reading the book evolves and changes, and the meaning of the book in my life changes after I've read it. So the spoilers don't matter anymore. That's me using my social sciences degree to deconstruct material artifacts. The spoilers don't bother me, it just has to be a good book, and then its meaning will kind of change for me and I'll be able to reread it. And the final question is, are you spoiler free when reviewing, and does this hinder your ability to discuss books? I am spoiler free when reviewing. I have been 100% spoiler free on this channel, and on Goodreads I think I've probably put up like 2 reviews that have contained spoilers and I've adequately marked them as containing spoilers, but for the most part I'm spoiler free. I don't think that this hinders my ability for discussion, just because I don't think I have what it takes to do long form single book reviews on this channel or on Goodreads. Like when you're on Goodreads and people have written basic like essays on their reviews of books, I just don't have that in me. I don't have that kind of analytical brain when I'm reading books. I just like to lose myself in a story and enjoy it, and that's really all it takes for me to give a book a good rating, is just to get lost in it. So I don't like to just spend my whole time thinking like, oh, what am I going to say in my review? Like, oh, I need to be analytical about this and this and this. And from being on BookTube and reviewing more, I have gradually, naturally just gotten more analytical when reading books, where I'm able to review them a little bit better now. But I just don't think I could ever do a single book review video. It's just not the way that I read or review. I much prefer to just give my spoiler-free thoughts. And so there is my spoiler tag. Thank you guys very much for watching. I do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to let me know down in the comments what you think about these spoilery things, and if you decide to answer these questions and do this tag 100%, let me know down below and I would love to check out your video. Thank you guys very, very much for making it this far. If you did make it this far, then why not hit that big red subscribe button down below and stick around, because I post videos weekly and it's soon to go up to twice a week again. So there's no shortage of bookish content here, which you clearly seem to enjoy. This is a sign from the universe, not from me. It's not coming from me at all. If you guys are interested, you should also go follow me on Twitter, because it's a really great place for you guys to kind of control what you see on my channel a little bit more. I do a lot of polls, I ask a lot of questions, and we can just be friends and discuss books and spoilers together, so why not do that? Thank you guys again for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week and have a fantastic time reading, and I will see you next week for my next video. Bye guys.